Now is the time in our service where we like to do meditation. So I invite you to get things out of your lap and get those feet firmly planted on the floor. Let those shoulders relax. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. And we'll begin taking some deep breaths together. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing slowly and deliberately. And now seeing that breath going in and out of your heart space. Feeling your shoulders relax as that breath brings you to that quiet place. That place of peace. And now I invite you to bring into your mind any person or situation that really makes you feel so happy, so filled with joy, so uplifted, so filled with gratitude. It could be an event that you've attended. It could be a holiday experience that you had. Any event that when you think about it, your heart fills with joy. So as you're breathing in and out of your heart space, you feel your heart filling with that joy, that love, that gratitude. And now I invite you to stay there a bit in the silence, feeling and letting that emotion of love fill you up in the silence. Those memories that we have of love and joy and gratitude open our heart even more. And our heart fills with this beautiful pink light of love. When we center ourselves in those feelings of love and joy and gratitude, we can't help but fill up and open our hearts for more of that experience as we focus on that which we desire to have more joy, more love, more happiness, more good. It opens us up for even more expansion in our hearts. And so I invite you to see that pink light of love that you have created in your heart space. And I invite you to send that love out to our planet right now. Just imagine that the planet is a little ball right in front of you, and you're shooting that pink love from your heart out. And you're lifting up every being on the planet. from the love that you are, from the joy and from the peace and the gratitude that you feel, we bless our planet. All of the oceans, the mountains, the animals, the plants, and every single being now has a smile on their face because you have shared who you came here to be. And so we bring that love back into our heart space. And with gratitude, we say, thank you, indwelling Spirit, for this sweet time to remember the love that we are, to remember the light that we came here to be, our true purpose, sharing that love and light with everyone through how we think, how we feel, what we believe, and what we do. And so we bring our attention now back into this room. With gratitudes in our hearts, we say, thank you, indwelling Spirit, that this is so, and so it is. And whenever you're ready, just open your beautiful eyes. This week we celebrated Cinco de Mayo on May the 5th, and in the Science of Mind magazine, there was a great story. It was about an entrepreneur who had come into tough times. In fact, the creditors were knocking at the door. He wasn't even sure how he was going to make payroll, and he just sort of walked out of his office and went to the nearest park and sat on a park bench and just kind of put his head in his hands and was just like, oh my gosh, he started to pray. I don't know what I'm going to do. And this older gentleman walks up and sits down on the bench, and he tells this older gentleman his story. And the guy pulls out a checkbook, writes him a check, and says, I think this will probably help you. And the man said, well, whatever you give me, I'll pay you back in 1 year. I promise I'll get on my feet again, and I will pay you back. Let's meet here in a year. And the guy said, sure. And he walked away, and the guy looked at the check, and it was for $500,000, and it was signed by John Rockefeller. So he's like in amazement, right? That this could happen just when he's asking for help, right? And he goes back and he's so excited. He starts to get divine ideas about what he can do for his business. And so he takes that check and he locks it up in the safe. And he never cashes it. Never takes it to the bank. And it stays there for a whole year. In the meantime, he builds a successful business back. Everything's hunky-dory. He doesn't even need the guy's check. So in a year, he takes that check back to the park. And he goes to that same park bench, and here comes the little gentleman. But right behind him is running this nurse, hollering, I'm sorry if he's upset you or bothered you in any way. She said, he keeps coming to the park and telling people he's John Rockefeller and writing them checks. So the man only had to have a belief that he had a safety net, you see. He only had to have a belief that there was something there in case he failed. But because of this generosity of this beautiful being that showed up in the park, he had the belief to believe he could do it. And so he succeeded. That is the power of our thoughts and how our thoughts manifest our lives for us. And so this month, we have this new affirmation that we're saying all month. Let's say it together. The power of my thoughts and words moves me ever closer to the truth of my being. I love that story. I love how that all played out. It's just exactly what the lesson is about today. I love how synchronicities happen because we're doing two things. We have a Tuesday night class on the callings, and we have a Wednesday book study with the 3 magic words. And this particular week, in the 3 magic words, there's a story about a Dr. Rhine who at Duke University was studying people about intuition. He was doing a study to see how much people could transform things with the power of their thoughts. And so he found out how powerful we are to move matter, to see into the future, to receive and transmit thoughts. And so he says, the greatest power in all creation exists in the mind of man. We are incredibly powerful. And then when he talks about clairvoyance, he says, each of us is a product of his thought. So in considering your own future, you need only be concerned with the conviction that you have concerning it. Whatever your conviction is, there is your future. Well, you know, I absolutely love that word conviction, because it to me, it's like the strength. You know that you know. You have a conviction of something, right? I love that. So in the Unity magazine, the latest issue of Unity magazine, Dawson Church writes regularly in there. He is the author of Bliss Brain. He's a PhD. And he is also doing studies, and he has an article in there this month called Creating Reality with Your Mind. He says that all the greats, like Gandhi and Buddha and Emerson, have told us that our minds create our reality. Even Charles Fillmore said, mind is that from which the manifested comes forth. We know this is true because we have all experienced what our thoughts do when you get that phone call, that upsetting phone call about something or someone in your family, and your heart begins to race, you know, your palms get sweaty, you know, just the thought that something is wrong creates that reaction in your body, whereas the exact opposite is true. Somebody calls, shares a sweet grandperson story, a grandchild story, and shares some wonderful news that they have. The exact opposite happens. We get all this serotonin, we feel good, you know, our immune system builds up. It reacts completely differently, all by what we're thinking, you see. So Dawson says, now science supports this idea, too, that it's not just our bodies that we have an impact on, but it's also our environment. That's how powerful we are. And he goes on to share this story about this lady, Sabrina, that's running a lab at MIT for graduate students. And there's this chemical test, there's this experiment that everybody that comes through her lab has to be able to create. And it's extremely difficult. And everybody that comes in there, it takes multiple times for them to be able to do it correctly. But this new guy, Billy, who's brand new to the program, first time on the campus, walks in, goes into the lab, and reproduces the experiment effortlessly. And Sabrina is like ecstatic. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe you did it on the very first try. And he said, well, you know, I heard that we were going to have to do this experiment. I looked it up. I just followed the instructions. Billy did not have time to be there long enough to hear his fellow students talking about how hard it was. He didn't have a belief in his mind that it was supposed to be difficult. So he just went in and did what he thought he was supposed to do. That is the difference in how we set ourselves up in our lives, whether we think something is going to be difficult or not. It's all up to how we're thinking about it. So what we think, what we feel, what we believe, and what we do is what will manifest. We are incredibly powerful beings, and our minds are constantly influencing the material world around us every single day. Dawson Church says it is clear that both for optimum physical health and manifestation of what we desire in life, we need to shift the brain's negativity bias. The key to changing your material reality begins in your mind. So you see, we can't have that duality. We can't have our pet peeves, our whining and our complaining, and have our peace at the same time. They can't exist in our hearts. It won't work. So this is all about, to me, this whole lesson is about principle 3. God is, I am, I think. Principle 3 is the law of mind action. So what we focus on expands. What we give attention to is what we get more of. Create your thinking, create your life. Change your thinking, create your life that you want. And so it's all about that. I create my experiences by what I choose to think, what I choose to feel, what I choose to believe, what I choose to do as far as action in my life. So today we're in scriptures, and you know this one. We're in Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. So we know that how we think about our life is how it's going to unfold. If we turn our thoughts away from the outer appearance and we go toward the spiritual indwelling good of us, then we see ourselves and others rightly. We see the way things truly are. And that apparent evil or discord begins to just fall away, because we're spending most of our time thinking about what is good instead of what isn't good. If we spend more time thinking about what's working instead of what isn't working. I caught a friend in a conversation yesterday, and I heard her say, well, you know, I've been through one of these things before, and it didn't have a good outcome. It was extremely difficult, and I said, I'm not claiming that. Right here, right now, I'm telling you, it's going to be easy. It's going to be fun. It's not going to be difficult. It's going to have an outcome that we all want. So it's just a matter of where do you want to place your thoughts. So Myrtle Fillmore said, our affairs are just an extension of our consciousness. As we think in our heart, so are we. It's because through our heart, we feel what is ours to do. Our heart will never misguide us. It's our head and some of those thoughts that take us down that rabbit trail that we don't want to go down. So we have to, when we get to that place and we're having that negativity bias that Dawson Church is talking about, we just have to stop in that moment, catch ourselves, and change the way you're thinking about it in that moment and see it. I've had examples of that in my family this last week. Lots of opportunity to prove this. Whenever this message comes up, there's always an opportunity to practice what I preach. And so I love how that happens, that synchronicity, because then I get to know this stuff really works. Because I changed the way I was looking at something, the whole outcome changed. Instead of thinking something was going to be difficult, we catch ourselves. We can do it. Well, there's a book that Neil Donald Walsh wrote that says, it's called When God Steps In, Miracles Happen. And there was a chapter in there right at the end of the book. It was called A Mother's Message. And it's about a woman, because this is Mother's Day weekend we're celebrating this weekend. It's about a woman who has raised 4 children, who gave up her career. She had a college degree, but she gave up her career because she felt like being a mom was the most important thing. So here she is, last child in the nest, driving her off to college. Now, those of us that have done that know there are lots of mixed emotions, and she was feeling a lot of angst about, is she really ready to be on her own, and leaving her at this college by herself, and you know, the whole thing. So they're driving along, and she's having all these feelings and these emotions, and she's just trying to smile and be okay about everything. And all of a sudden, a doe runs out right in front, and she slams on the brake, and she stops, and the doe looks back, and she's waiting for her fawn to cross the street. So she waits and she watches, and the mom gets her baby across the street. And then as soon as the doe has crossed safely and her baby is safe, she turns around and she looks right in the eyes of the lady driving the car. Bam, there's this instant connection. And she bawls. She just breaks into tears. It's like this heart opened wide, and she was like, oh, I hope you're going to be okay. And so she and her daughter have this conversation, and then it's okay. And then she's like, what a blessing that was. I'm going to think about this differently. God works in mysterious ways, right? She needed to have something to open her up to share with her daughter, and that dough somehow gave her permission. It was the sweetest, sweetest story. She felt like there was some sort of connection that can only pass between mothers that was shared in that exact moment. Everybody has a different experience of their moms. Some good, some not so good. Some weren't even raised by their moms. Their grandmas raised them, or some other member of their family. Everybody has a different experience of it. My mom just passed into spirit 4 months ago. So what I've been doing, instead of thinking about what didn't work in our relationship, I have been healing our relationship by thinking about all the wonderful memories and all the fun times and how she introduced me to music. And so I encourage you, if you've got not just your mom, but any relationships in your lives that are not what you would like them to be, that you can change that memory. Because I swear to you, most of the stories we have that we're carrying around about, oh, poor me, and what so-and-so did to me, is a story in our head that we could go in and reframe and change and make it a positive outcome. And let your subconscious remember it that way. That's how powerful we are. Because my mom's idea and thoughts for my life were so much smaller than what I wanted. She wanted me to go to business school, be a good secretary, marry a nice man, and raise my family. And I was like, yeah, maybe eventually. I wanted to go to college. I had big dreams. I just blew her out of the water with the ideas that I had about my life. And even up until the time that she got dementia and couldn't even hardly converse with me anymore, she was blown away. She said things to me like, I can't believe you stand in front of people and pray, and that you stand in front of people, that you get on camera. She was just like, I can't believe you're doing that. And I was like, Mom, I don't have any choice. This is what I'm supposed to do. So we never really connected in that way, but I still know I picked her, and you all picked the way that you came in and what you learned. You picked these experiences for the lessons that you came here to learn. In Discover the Power, Eric Butterworth's book, he quotes Charles Fillmore as saying, God's greatest gift to man is the power of thought, through which he can incorporate into his consciousness the mind of God. With that much power, there's not much we cannot do, you see. We're playing in this field of infinite possibilities. If you so choose it, right? You get to make anything possible that you want. So our way shower, Jesus, tried to teach us all the things that we needed to know how to do to be able to control our thoughts. I read the other day, and I love this, that Jesus was the Christopher Columbus of the soul. I love that. He crossed the frontier of the mind and discovered a new world within himself. And that's what a lot of us have been doing during this pandemic. We've had additional time for prayer and meditation and going apart for a while and listening to that still small voice, listening for our guidance. He realized, you see, that the mind is a bridge between man and the infinite. We live in the mind of God. The mind of God lives in us. There is no separation ever. So he was here to help us understand our thought processes. You are the very activity of God in expression. So there is no place where the light of God is any more present than it is in you. Right here, right now. And it's an awesome responsibility, isn't it? That you can change your thinking and you can help change the world, person by person, as you interact from that place of being love. So one of my favorite authors is Emmett Fox. And I found this thing that he wrote that I absolutely love. He says, you think, and your thoughts materialize as experience. And thus it is, all unknown to yourself as a rule, that you are actually weaving the pattern of your own destiny, here and now, by the way in which you allow yourself to think day by day, all day long. It is altogether in your hands. Nobody but yourself can keep you down. Nobody else can involve you in difficulty or limitation. Neither parents, nor wives, nor husbands, nor employers, nor neighbors, nor poverty, nor ignorance, nor any power whatsoever can keep you out of your own when you have once learned how to think. I love that. I love the way he writes and how easy it is to understand that I am the creator of my experience. There's nobody to blame. I can't blame anybody for anything that's happened in my life. And that's not always easy to do when we feel like somebody's done us wrong, right? But we can change the way that we're thinking about it and look for the gift in every single situation. Further on in Discover the Power, one teacher says, say what you are listening to. Never listen to what you are saying. If we listen to what we are saying, we conform our lives to human standards. We must let the Spirit in us reveal to us and as us and through us. God has something particular to say to the world through you. And what he is trying to say is you. You are the divine idea in the mind of God, right here, right now. You are the ones the world has been waiting for. We are here because we're supposed to help heal this planet during this pandemic and on the other side to the new way of normal, the new way of being. Your light, your love, your joy, your peace, all of your spiritual gifts that you bring are needed, and only you can provide that. So I ran across in the Discover the Power notes this poem. It says, you never can tell what your thoughts will do in bringing you hate or love. For thoughts are things, and their airy wings are swifter than carrier doves. They follow the law of the universe. Each thing must create its kind. And they speed o'er the track to bring you back whatever went out from your mind. So think about that. In our 3 magic words this week, there was a little section in our chapter, and it was things are thoughts. Not thoughts are things, but things are thoughts. Because there is nothing anywhere at all that was not first a thought. Everything starts in the mind. It starts in the mental and then is manifested and brought forth through the desires of our hearts. Everything that has ever been created is first a thought. So thoughts are things, but things are also thoughts. So your thoughts equal your life. Think about that. Now it's time for a little humor. Let's have a little joke. Cindy Allen sent me this. It's just absolutely adorable. So there's a single guy, and he's a little bit on the lonesome side, and he goes down to the pet store and decides he wants to really adopt something unusual, a different kind of pet. And so he ends up coming home. He finds this centipede. You know, the 100-leg guy? The centipede. A talking centipede, no doubt. And so they wrap him up in this cute little white box that becomes his house, and he carries him home, and he finds a nice place for him, and he says, you know what, my new friend, how we should start this out is we should go to church. Would you like to go to church with me? Dead silence. A few minutes go by, nothing happens. I'm just wondering, you know, we could really be blessed if we went to church. Would you like to go? Let's go to church. What do you think? Dead silence. So finally, a few more minutes pass. He's a little frustrated. It's supposed to be a talking centipede. He walks over and he gets right close to the box and he basically hollers in, do you want to go to church or not? And there's this tiny little voice that says, I heard you the first time. I'm putting on my shoes. Thank you, Cindy. That was really cute. I went to close today. I ran across in the archives of Unity a whole gallery of Myrtle Fillmore's writings. And they literally scanned and put the actual letter that she had written to the person. And so you could read, here she's writing, Ms. Della Schutz in Bakersfield, California. So Della has written for help for Myrtle, and Myrtle is responding this way. She says, the seeds you are sowing will fall into all kinds of mental soil, that which is rocky and hard, as well as fertile soil that is rich in faith and undeveloped possibilities. But you are preparing the unpromising soil through speaking living truths that inspire faith. Faith, honesty, nobleness were implanted in every single soul from the very beginning. And sometimes they have been covered up by hard material thoughts and states of mind to the degree that it takes quite a bit of cultivation to bring these possibilities up to the surface. The Spirit of the Lord expressing in and through you calls forth into expression that Christ Spirit within those you are trying to help. And so the Father's good work is being done. And so it is, and so we allow it. Amen. Thank you so much. Now is a time in our service when we get to be blessed and bless our ministry with our tithes and offerings. So whether you're sitting here with me or whether you're out there at home by the PayPal button or by the Breeze software link, please bless your tithes together with us. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, that this is so. And so it is. Namaste, everyone. God bless.